to our meeting today. I'm Miriam Wright. I'm head of the Department of History at the University of Windsor, and I'm very happy to be able to present two Heritage Department of History Community Heritage Medals to both the French Canadian Heritage Society of Michigan and to Rosemary Kirt. Now, Community Heritage Medal is a program we just started in the department last year. And we did it to recognize the great work that people in the community do to keep the history and heritage of our region alive. We know that people in the community do really excellent work. They do research, they write books, they run organizations, they do community outreach, they write books, they do all kinds of things to kind of provide this kind of a rich heritage and resource for this region. And we particularly become aware of this in the past few years because in our department we are starting to offer more courses that are kind of related to the history of our larger region and also to the history of public history. We've got a new course running where students do a public history course. They do a research project based on local resource records, for example, local church records, and they create a digital exhibit and they create these wonderful, wonderful websites. So it's really something that we're quite excited about it. And also, of course, it means that we need to have local resources for them to do that. And of course, Guillaume, in the past few years, has been offering some wonderful courses on the larger history of the Detroit River region. We've had a lot of positive response from our students about it. We've got graduate students working on histories of Detroit, history of the Detroit River area, and we really kind of recognize the work that that people in the community have done to make all of this possible. This is actually the first year we're actually opening up our award to Americans. Last year we did primarily, we gave awards to people in Windsor and Essex County and also Chatham and Kent County. And, you know, they're sort of considered the region, you know, closest to our university and so on. But of course, we're also recognizing that, you know, for the vast majority of our history, the international border has really, you know, it's been relatively recent. And for the most part, the river has been a river. It's something that brings people together, not something that that divides them. And so that's why we thought it was important to recognize or to open this award up to people on both sides of the river who are doing much to enrich the history of this larger region, which is one region. It's not two. Historically, it hasn't been two. I'm also certainly just very happy to be able to recognize the French element of our history. That's something we're trying to do in our department more, is to bring more of that history, just because it's so unique and so important to this region. We realize that if we don't do it, and if groups such as yours don't do it, then this kind of history would be lost. And so that's why we're very happy to recognize it. And also personally, one of my branches of my family is actually descended from the Detroit River French families. And I've actually come across some of your websites and materials as I've just done some of my own family history, so I'm tracking these stories and just realized recently that the websites I was looking at were actually yours. So that's great too. And also, I think I'm related to Rosemary. So,
what's the name?
Labadie.
Pardon?
Labadie. Labadie, one of the families.
Yes, Labadie is one of them.
But that's not why she get the award. We don't have nepotism for 8 cousins or whatever. So. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll pass this over to Guillaume, and he'll read the citations for both the awards, and then we'll present the medals.
Okay. Presented to Rosemary E. Kirt. Rosemary E. Kirt has spent more than a decade researching her French-Canadian ancestry. A resident of Southeast Michigan, she has published her findings in a book entitled Heirlooms, Stories of a French-Canadian Family, the Pétrimou. This work is based on thorough archival research and interviews with descendants of French-Canadian families from both sides of the border. It is a significant contribution to the rich history of the French-Canadian presence in the Detroit River region. Presented to the French-Canadian Heritage Society of Michigan. For more than 3 decades, the French-Canadian Heritage Society of Michigan has promoted genealogical research on hundreds of French Canadian families who have settled in Michigan and Southwest Ontario. Through its publications, and I'm thanking the Michigan's Habitat Heritage, meetings, website, and Facebook group, the French Canadian Heritage Society of Michigan has provided invaluable information on French Canadians in the Detroit River region. Also, through its chart program for those who came to Detroit between 1701 and 1710, it has commemorated the founding of Fort Pontchartrain de Detroit. The impact of the society has reached genealogists and historians throughout North America.
And so, maybe Rosemary?
Thank you, Miriam. And I'd also like to thank the French Canadian Heritage Society of Michigan for enabling this novice to receive an award for writing a book on the French Canadian heritage. It all started 20 years ago when a friend recommended that I find a genealogy society and research my French Canadian heritage in preparation for the tricentennial. And I was fortunate enough to find the French Canadian Heritage Society and be able to link the history that I had already collected about my family with the research that they enabled me to do. Gail was able to do research in France and make some connections and enabled me to get past some roadblocks and go back to the 17th century in France. Suzanne was able to translate some old French words, which, because of her ability to translate old French, I was able to write stories, and not just facts, but some stories about my ancestors. And Diane enabled me to sequence some of the history of the War of 1812. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of belonging to a genealogy society, not just doing research on the internet and Googling and belonging to Facebook. As much as that helps, it is not the be-all and the end-all. So I, again, thank the French Canadian Heritage Society for this.
I would like to thank, the rest of the Genealogy Society for this award, because it certainly is all of our society that's gone together. But specifically, I'd like to thank, stand in that light, Suzanne, Diane, you can come up here, please. Suzanne, Diane, Gail, and Mike. These are some of our key players.
Bravo.
Great for our society. Thank you again. Now we're going to get on to our.
Can I take a quick picture?
Oh, sure, that would be great.
Come on in. Away from the screen, I think.
Yeah, and this glaring light that.
Yeah, just over to the side.
Oh, okay, we'll go scoot over a little bit.
Yeah, please join us, Guillaume.
Yep, yeah.
Yes, Guillaume and, she's taking one.
Why don't we let somebody else take it, and then we'll have you in, Miriam?
We need Miriam.
We need Miriam in here.